Welcome back and thanks for staying with us. Let's continue here now. Two beaches in Umhlanga were reopened for swimming yesterday after water quality tests showed that the E. coli levels had dropped significantly. In recent months, the eThekwini municipality has been under pressure to complete repairs to damaged infrastructure after the April floods. Sewage spills ending up in the ocean forced the closure of most beaches with high levels of E. coli also detected. Now let's discuss this. We're now joined via Zoom by founding member and CEO South African Water Chamber, Benoît Le Roy. Mr. Le Roy, thank you so much for your time this afternoon. Of course, there's never a good time for such a situation to happen, but it comes at a time when a lot of influx from the tourism sector is expected to descend in KZN. How worried are you as the South African Water Chamber about the situation that is transpiring currently in KZN?
Hi, Nadia and the viewers. Yes, we really want, Durban, eThekwini and the KZN coastline to enjoy the tourism boom that one would normally get. But what's concerning is that there's varying levels of E. coli, which tells us that the root causes are probably not resolved, that they're quite extensive. And the fluctuations probably relate to currents and to rain. So, the beaches need to be healthy for the citizens. And, I would suggest that at least a clear week, at least 7 consecutive days of clear beaches would show that the root causes are in actual fact addressed. I would urge the city to, in actual fact, put some confidence in us and those going down to the coast and say that we have sorted out these pump stations, these broken lines and all the likes, and we believe, we've mitigated this way and that way, and that we have it, permanently resolved, so that otherwise we're going to have unnecessary, grief, and then the damage to the local economy is severe, and we really don't need that.
Just in terms of the safety, especially for, beachgoers, I mean, in our intro, we said that the 2 beaches in Umhlanga have now reopened for swimming because the E. coli levels have dropped significantly. But, I mean, how safe is it then for them to continue to swim? In fact, just how much is the E. coli levels, how much of those are deemed safe to swim in? Because the concern, of course, as you say, you should at least allow the beaches to remain open for some time before you open them up to the public.
Yeah, so they have guidelines which, are based on, I think, historical figures and give the level of comfort that the general population won't get sick, from that. But, the worrying part is that they vary. So why are they varying? And, I think the city needs to tell us that they are varying because of these reasons or those reasons. I don't think the results are questionable because they've been splitting the samples with a private laboratory and they've been tracking each other quite closely. So the results are quite good. But the thing is, currents change quite a lot. And you've seen these levels of E. coli spiking up and down, and there's some very high E. coli readings along the eThekwini beaches in the last 10 days. And, what is causing that? If those root causes haven't been addressed, then relying on currents is not, I don't think, a great idea. However, Umhlanga Rocks is a little bit more north from the Umgani estuary and all the likes, and it could be that the Umhlanga Rocks pump station issues have been solved. And I think it's just good for the city to say how we solved them, what we've done. Put it out there, do some PR, put it out there and say, we have done it, we've solved it, we've allowed for X amount of time for the system to get flushed and for the E. coli levels to be consistently and predictably low. I think, we need to show a little bit extra. It shouldn't be for the tourists to, in actual fact, try to find out what the truth is. To be honest, I think the tourists will just move away. So the city needs to do some PR and say we have addressed issues in these ways and these beaches are safe. So Umhlanga Rocks might well be, because of its location, safe at the moment now.
Yeah, I think it gives a lot of people comfort, particularly given the time of year it is. And of course, we know that South Africans also love to go to KZN, particularly Durban, and enjoy those beaches. So it gives us a little bit of comfort knowing that those tests are pretty much accurate. Now, you mentioned root causes several times in terms of just getting into understanding what is at the cause of some of these problems. The eThekwini municipality saying that, because of the April floods, it's been very much difficult for them, and they've been under pressure in terms of, just correcting those much needed infrastructure developments and repair works. But this problem surely didn't start at the April floods. I mean, it is historic, is it not?
Yeah, look, we have virtually a national issue. I think the Western Cape is the one that's performing better at the moment, but let's not delve into that. But generally speaking, vulnerable infrastructure gets worse affected during extreme weather events. And the floods, really laid it all bare. And in actual fact, the mayor at one stage early on this year was asking for 20 billion rand to fix the damages. I don't know what portion of it, I think nearly half of that was for water and wastewater. And I'm told the National Fiscus doesn't have the money. So that to us tells us that very little work has been done. So the root causes are pump stations that have been vandalized recently after the floods, not some before, but some after the floods. But there's some pipelines leaking this week and last week, leaking into let's say rivers and lagoons and swamps and wetlands and the likes. And, we need to know how much has been spent, where's it been spent, show us that you have rerouted the broken bulk lines, repaired them, pump stations have been, reinstated, and this is how they are working. Otherwise, the default position is that very little has been done and that the pollution is in actual fact going to persist, on the central beaches, of eThekwini. Blaming floods, you can do it for X amount of time. This has happened a while ago, and either the city can function or it can't. And so yes, I think years of neglect have left the infrastructure quite vulnerable, making it extraordinarily expensive, to reinstate. And it has to be, because tourism is just going to be negatively affected unnecessarily. And all the people who depend on, and this is supposed to be the boom time, in December. And there are alternatives. There might be further for the Gautengers and the likes to go to, but a lot are going down to the garden route and all the likes purely because they're guaranteed that there is less or no pollution. So, and maybe Nelson Mandela Bay will end up having, more tourists and all that. So there's competition there. It does cost more. But eThekwini cannot sit back on its laurels. And I would suggest the city become overtly convincing that they're on top of the problems, unlike what we're seeing at the moment.
All right. Thank you so much for your time this afternoon. Really do appreciate your input on this conversation. That is the CEO, South African Water Chamber, Benoît Le Roy, just talking to us about just some of the statuses of the beaches in KwaZulu-Natal, particularly eThekwini.